The moment I saw the flashing red and blue lights outside my house, my stomach dropped, not out of fear, but out of disbelief. I hadn't called for backup, I hadn't requested a patrol. Yet, two men in police uniforms were stepping out of a black SUV, heading straight for my door. They moved with a confidence that only came from one thing: arrogance. But they were about to learn a painful lesson, because they had just walked into the home of the city's chief of police. It started 2 months earlier when my wife, Claire, and I moved into Maple Ridge Estates, one of those picture-perfect suburban neighborhoods with white fences, manicured lawns, and an HOA board that acted more like a royal court than a community council. We thought it would be peaceful. After 25 years on the force, I was ready for quiet evenings, barbecues with neighbors, and maybe even learning how to relax. But peace doesn't last long where power is abused. From the very beginning, the HOA president, a woman named Linda Graves, made it clear that she ran the neighborhood with an iron fist. She was the kind of person who smiled while writing you up for a trash can left out too long. She loved rules, control, and the sound of her own voice. She once fined my neighbor for having a flag that was too large for community standards. Our trouble began over something as simple as a fence. I wanted to replace the old wooden one behind our yard with a sturdier vinyl design. I followed the rules, submitted the request, even included the exact color samples. But a week later, I got a notice. Denied, not in keeping with community aesthetic. When I asked for clarification, Linda said my fence looked too institutional. I wanted to laugh as if she knew what institutional even meant. I tried to reason with her, but she seemed to take pleasure in saying number. Then came the random inspections, the warning letters, and eventually, the threats of fines. It was clear she had decided I was her new project or her new enemy. I've dealt with people like her before, the kind who mistake authority for power. But I let it slide. I had more important things to do than argue with a self-proclaimed neighborhood dictator. That was until she sent officers to my house. It happened on a Saturday morning. I was cleaning out the garage, still in an old t-shirt, when the SUV pulled up. Two men stepped out in uniforms, badges, radios, the whole act. One was tall and broad-shouldered, the other lean with sunglasses that hid his eyes. "Sir," the tall one said, "you're under arrest for property code violations and failure to comply with HOA enforcement orders." For a second, I thought it was some kind of prank. Then I noticed the badges, cheap plastic imitations with the city emblem printed crookedly. Their belts carried no real service weapons, just black holsters that hung a little too low. "Is this a joke?" I asked calmly, wiping my hands. The tall one stepped forward, voice raised. "Sir, you can cooperate, or we can make this harder." Behind him, I saw Linda standing on the sidewalk with her phone out, recording. She had that smug smirk, the kind that makes you wonder if she's ever faced consequences in her life. That's when it clicked. She had orchestrated this. I smiled, the kind of smile that makes perps nervous. "All right," I said, "before you cuff me, let me grab my ID." "It's in the house." The tall one nodded. "Make it quick." I went inside, straight to my desk, and grabbed my badge, the real one. The gold glinted under the light as I turned back toward the door. When I stepped outside, I held it up for all to see. "Gentlemen," I said, "I'm Chief Daniel Reeves, a Metro Police Department. You're impersonating officers, which is a felony. And if I were you, I'd start explaining who sent you before you find yourself in handcuffs for real." The tall man's face went pale. The other took a step back. Linda lowered her phone, the color draining from her cheeks. This is a misunderstanding," she stammered. "I just asked them to what? Intimidate me?" I interrupted. "You thought sending fake cops would scare me into following your ridiculous HOA demands? You've just crossed into criminal territory." I called for backup, real backup, and within minutes, squad cars rolled into the cul-de-sac. My officers quickly confirmed what I already knew. The men weren't cops. They were security guards hired through a private company. Linda had told them to act official to make me comply. They even had fake arrest warrants printed on whole letterhead. When the reality set in, Linda broke down. She claimed she didn't know it was illegal, that she just wanted to enforce community order. But the guards turned on her, showing the text messages she sent, make it look real so he takes it seriously. The whole neighborhood gathered to watch the scene unfold. People I'd barely spoken to came out of their homes, whispering in disbelief. Some looked angry not at me, but at her. For years, Linda had bullied them into silence, using fines and threats to keep everyone obedient. Now, her mask was off for everyone to see. When the cuffs clicked around her wrists, she looked at me with a mixture of hate and fear. "You can't do this to me," she spat. I looked her dead in the eyes. "You did this to yourself." The investigation that followed exposed years of HOA corruption, unauthorized fines, embezzled funds, harassment. The list went on. Residents filed complaints, and soon, the entire board was dissolved. A new community council was elected, one that actually listened to the people. As for me, I wasn't looking for revenge. I just wanted fairness. The truth is, power attracts the wrong kind of people when no one stands up to it. It's easy for small authority to turn into tyranny when everyone else stays quiet. Months later, as I stood by my new fence finally approved and installed, my neighbor, an elderly man named George, walked over. "You know, Chief," he said with a chuckle, "I've lived here 15 years. Never thought I'd see justice served in Maple Ridge." I smiled. "Justice always shows up, George. Sometimes it just takes the right badge." He nodded thoughtfully. "Guess we all learned something, huh?" "Yeah," I said, watching the sunset glow over the quiet street. That standing up for what's right isn't just about laws. It's about courage, even in your own backyard. From that day on, the neighborhood changed. People talked more, helped each other more, and fear of the HOA disappeared. My story spread around the county, not because I was a police chief, but because it reminded people that authority should serve, not control. So if you ever find yourself dealing with someone who abuses their little slice of power, remember this: you don't need a badge to stand for what's right. You just need the courage to face the truth, even when it knocks on your door pretending to be justice. And sometimes a broken bar, justice knocks right back.